Welcome to the Non-Essential Podcast. I'm Steve Gibson.
I'm Ben. Hi.
Hi.
Hi. It's just a podcast host about the most annoying fucker.
Well, I kind of thought that was our brand already, yes. But
that's right. I've been playing a character for 10 years.
You're really like Hugh Grant or something. I was just bored.
I'm incredibly charming in real life. Welcome to the show.
I'm incredibly moist and tired in real life.
Why are you moist?
We're gonna get that story right now.
Are you covered in your kid pee on you?
No. Although, maybe, I don't know.
Probably.
Yeah. When you've got an infant, like basically 90% of everything's pee or slobber or both. But Tara, she, like always on Thursday nights, she went up to put the baby to bed, and she was up there forever and ever. And I'm like, I think she forgot that it's Thursday when we do the show. And right at 9 o'clock, she comes down completely frazzled because the jackass baby won't go to sleep. And she's like, here. I'm like, I've got to go. She's like, son of a bitch.
Yeah, this is very important.
It is. But she's like, well, here, hold her for at least a minute while I go get a bottle ready. So I'm holding her, and I've got my bottle of water, that I always have because I'm a pillar of health. And the baby's kind of playing with the handle and stuff. It's like, whatever, anything that distracts her, that's fine. And Tara comes back to pick her up, and like as she's picking her up, Penny kicks over the bottle, and I just feel my whole side and ass like soaking wet. And so I'm like, it was like my phone was laying there too, so she kicked it over right on top of my phone. And so I like pick it up, and I'm annoyed, and Tara's like, well, it was an open bottle on the couch. So I'm like, no, it wasn't. That was a fucking closed bottle. That asshole baby managed to open it, and
mechanics, and she's using them for evil.
Yeah. And then the best part was, I wasn't really annoyed. It's annoying, but it's like nobody's specific fault. It's just, it is what it is. But I was soaked, so I had to go upstairs and like change before, because I didn't really want to sit here sopping wet.
Yeah.
So then I come down
squishy bottoms.
Squishy bottom. That's the thing is, I'm like, my jeans are wet, so I go upstairs and take my jeans off. And I'm like, nope, my underwear's wet too. Like, it got me good.
The Non-Essential Podcast, host of the original Soggy Bottom Boys.
And I'm way too lazy to change, so I'm sitting here naked and wet now. So I change, and I come downstairs, and I'm like, well, now she just dumped my water bottle out. I'm just going to grab something out of the fridge to drink. So I open the fridge, and of course what I want's in the back, and as I'm reaching for it, something falls off the shelf, and it's actually like a bottle of lemon juice, like the pre-made, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And of course it hits the ground, and the top snaps off, and it fucking goes everywhere. And it's like, God damn it.
Wow.
Like, liquids just want to be everywhere.
Yeah. I would say avoid like the bathroom in general for the next 24 hours.
Right.
Until this haunting can go away.
Yeah, I'll flush and the whole toilet will just like go in reverse and explode.
I just suck you in like a fucking genie lamp.
I was picturing it just like spraying everywhere like a fire hydrant that's been unleashed.
I'm kind of picturing it like if you ever saw the Casper live action movie when the dude sucks in the fat ghost into the vacuum cleaner. And he's like all the way in until his head, and his head won't go in.
Yeah, and I'd be like the only one home, so like 8 hours later, Tara would get home with the kids, and I'd just be my head in the toilet like, hey, help, help, I'm in the toilet.
Do you need to tell her that? At the point, it's like okay.
Well, see, that's the problem. I'd word it like that.
What you were sobbing for.
I'd word it like that, but see, clearly, if you were going to the bathroom and then got sucked into the toilet, the door. Well, I guess I can't say clearly. In my case, the door would be shut because I prefer to have a closed door when I'm using the bathroom.
My dad would not shut the door. It fucking skewed me out so much.
Yeah, it's weird.
And it's not like, oh, I got to keep an eye on the kids, like, when you have like a toddler running around or some shit.
Yeah, I've had to do that, and it's
like
weird.
I was 13. You do like,
yeah.
Shut the fucking door, you weirdo. Probably because he thought between like the cigarette smoke and the fucking whatever was coming out of his bunghole, like that was probably a chemical reaction that would have blown up.
Yeah, he was like, I don't want to be trapped in a small room with these odors.
You know, it'd be a sad way to like describe my dad dying, but at the same time, nothing would be funnier than him running out of the bathroom covered in flames because he like crapped too hard with a lit cigarette.
My shit exploded. Yeah, it's like a Christmas Vacation with the shitter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean,
anyway,
it'd be an on-brand way to go.
Yeah. I don't know. I've always said, like, because we all have to go sometime, and I'd rather it not be so soon for me. Like, I'm not to that point yet, as much as the world tries to beat me down.
As soggy as you get.
Yeah. But whenever I do go, sooner or later, I want it to be something spectacular, at least.
Spectacular.
Like, yeah, not just, like, butt cancer. That sucks. Yeah. Any kind of cancer sucks.
Can you roll your R's? Sorry to interrupt you. Like,
not really.
No. I wish I could.
Why?
Because I just tried to say spectacular, but I can't roll my R's.
Spectacular. Yeah, I can't either. Yeah. I took 8 years of Spanish. Like, that's one of the primary basic skills you're supposed to learn.
If you at home know somebody who can roll their R's, have them do the show.
You could roll a fat J, though.
Yeah.
Yo.
I can get fucking blitzed.
I can't. I wouldn't even. I think I have a better chance of rolling my R's than rolling a joint. But
yeah, for as much pot as my friends smoked, I remember that was like an ongoing thing of like they didn't really roll joints, and it's because I don't think they really knew how to.
It feels like it shouldn't be that hard, but I know there's an art to it.
There is, but like they had joint rollers, so like they had things that did most of the work for you. You just had to seal them, but I don't think they liked using them. I think it was a point of pride. And then when you smoke that much pot, it becomes a point of laziness. And then it's just like, well, you can get more pot in you via a
other
bong,
ways.
you know?
Yes.
So, but I always thought joints look cool because I still have that like Cowboy Bebop image in my head of like,
that's
cigarettes
the thing.
are
Like,
actually the raddest fucking looking things ever.
I talked about that on Blue Sky the other couple weeks ago. It's like I get like that whole like uproar, especially back in the like 70s, 80s, and it's like, oh, smoking's aiming at kids, which they were, and it's like by making it look cool. I'm like, but it is cool. Like,
it looks.
I'm 42. Sick. I'm 42, and I still think it's fucking badass.
Especially when you've been like shot 3 times, and like, you know, you're fucking. It's the fucking cigarette's just barely hanging there, you know, and it's like.
And you still just take a slow, like, lazy draw on it. You're not even, like, puffing away, Matt. You're just like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, dude.
But
name something cooler.
That was my point. It's like, yeah, you know, cigars can look kind of ridiculous, but usually they're pretty cool. Smoking, totally fucking rad.
Yeah.
Vaping, though, that's what was funny to me because I don't care if you vape. I'm not against vaping. I'm not for it, but you do not look cool vaping. Like that, it doesn't translate.
Kind of look like a toddler, a little bit.
Yeah,
like sucking on your little plastic baba.
Exactly, and that's exactly what brought that line of thought to my head the one day is because there was some guy, I can't remember where it was public somewhere, you know, puffing on a vape, but this vape was like shiny plastic, and it was like the old Cavaliers orange and blue looking, like it looked like he was sucking on a transformer or something, like a toy. And it's like, yeah, you cannot look cool. And I get that the point is not necessarily to not at all to look cool. You're just trying to smoke.
Yeah, but, it's like a mechanical thing. Like, I'm not trashing your addiction here. I'm just saying, sure would be pretty fucking cool if this was a noir story.
But it's weird that because even they make like the sleek ones that are just like black or metal or whatever, and they still don't look cool. And they've even had the ones that look like cigarettes, like, you know, they're the size and shape of cigarettes. That still doesn't look cool. Like, for whatever reason, as soon as you go to a electronic delivery method, it's like, nope, can't do it in a way that makes you look cool.
I remember Snake had an electronic cigar in Metal Gear Solid 5. And you used it to pass the time, which I thought it made it seem like whatever that was loaded with was like
probably
the
not
strongest
tobacco.
fucking shit ever. But yeah, it was also, I was kind of like, that's a Kojima thing, you know, like that could have just as easily been a regular cigar and they could have had the same effect. But
I know Kojima fanboys would probably be mad at this statement, but I kind of picture him like me in that regard, where he probably has never smoked, but he like
looks cool.
Romanticize. Yeah. So that's why
I don't think that's an absurd theory at all. I hope he doesn't smoke.
Yeah, he needs to live forever, but
it's like, but theatrically, characters should smoke more. You know, it's like I just want, like, I want John Wick, but I want him like halfway through coughing and wheezing. You know,
it's funny because we've talked about, like, you know, throughout the years it comes and goes, like music and video games and movies and stuff. Parents, oh, you can't show this, you can't show that. It's, you know, whatever. And smoking was one that got all but obliterated. You don't see it on TV much at all anymore. It's around, but like that campaign, like, really got it off air. They're like, yeah, you know, but that's one that it's funny because, again, I'm a 42-year-old man. Anytime I'm watching something and there's a badass character and he lights up a cigarette, I'm like, I'll be right back on. I got to go buy some cigarettes. Like, that looks,
yeah.
And the funniest part about it is what keeps me from not smoking is not the health risk. It's the, like, smelling bad and having I have had cigarettes. I assume you maybe have or been around them, whatever.
Yeah, my dad smoked my entire life. Yeah.
And I think that's the thing, is my parents were like chain smokers growing up, and then they quit after I moved out, so go figure.
Yeah.
So I'm 20 years removed from that situation, and if I'm in public and I catch a whiff of smoke, there's like part of me that's like, that smells good. But that stale smoke smell on you when you're a smoker does not smell good, and then that taste in your mouth after you smoke is fucking awful. And those are the two things that keep cigarettes away from me. So it shows you how much I care about my health. It's like, cancer? Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard enough, like lung cancer is genuinely, lung cancer and like mouth cancer, and like,
yeah.
All cancer is bad, but those seem genuinely horrific to have to treat. If you can treat them at all.
Yeah, that's the thing.
You know,
I think lung, you're pretty well fucked, aren't you?
What's that?
I think lung, you're pretty well fucked.
I mean, you can go. I guess it's like so many other cancers, it can bounce back, but you can go in remission with like treatment and stuff. It depends, like anything, when you catch it.
See,
like
that's
Walter White had lung cancer, you know, and that show lasted forever.
It was a documentary series too, right?
Oh, he's still out there, full of cancer.
And holes, apparently. I thought he died in the finale, didn't he?
Yeah, but he's still out there. Like,
and
he's like a Last of Us fucking mushroom man, but it's just like cancer tumors.
Well, and the point is, the cancer didn't get him. You know, he lives a long and unhappy life. and I guess not that long.
Not that really long. I think the show takes place over the course of like a year or two. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But when the show starts, they're like a couple months to live.
Yeah.
And shit. So, and he might have been able to live longer if he didn't have to, like, by season 5 run away to Alaska and get some like fucking back alley chemotherapy treatment every month.
Fantastic show.
It's stellar.
I watched the pilot, but
Better Call Saul's really good.
I was just talking about that with a coworker because I've not watched that either. But I was like, I know a lot of people that I think by the end of it were like leaning towards liking Better Call Saul better than Breaking Bad, and that's not even a dig on Breaking Bad because they all loved it. Like,
yeah, like they're just two very different shows, they're linked by that common thread,
character.
but the stories are very different. I do think the ending to Better Call Saul I think it holds up better than the Breaking Bad finale, which I liked, but this one really kind of like Better Call Saul lands that balance of like it's kind of a hopeful ending, but he's not getting away with it, kind of thing, where it's like he was a piece of shit, he's gonna pay for it, but the way they do it, you hope there's a light at the end of the tunnel for him.
That's what my coworker was saying, because she said, like, as it goes on, like, you kind of like the guy, even though you know he's not good, and then gets to a point where you're like, this guy's it's terrible. And then she said that, like, by the end, he does kind of redeems, maybe the wrong. Well, I guess sometimes you're back to like rooting for him.
It's the first step on the path of redemption, because he's like the first character to like get caught, and it's a spoiler, but it's been over for a while. But he's like the first character to like get caught and decide for himself that, instead of trying to worm my way out of this like a shady lawyer that I am, I'm just going to own it and tell the truth finally about everything that happened. Well, almost everything. He does omit one part, but he actually does it for like noble reasons. So yeah, a lot of people were mad that it got like fucking, it's award season now for TV and stuff, and they were mad that it didn't get any fucking respect.
I thought it got like a bazillion nominations though, didn't it?
Yeah, but I don't think it won any of them. Which, but that tells you what you need to know about. Stop watching award shows. It's like... Yeah,
and I hate to say that words don't mean...
If somebody gets on stage and slaps the host, you'll hear about that later. So you don't need to watch it live.
Yeah, and I stop a little short of saying the words don't mean shit, because I don't want to cheapen it for the people that do win, like, genuinely. Be like, oh, your award doesn't matter. It depends. There's definitely deserving people that get their awards, but it's just the nature of it's opinion based. So
yeah,
and it has to be.
You also have to admit, like, those awards, even when I agree with them, like Parasite winning Best Picture, like Parasite's an amazing movie. But you have to admit, like they movies and shows that win those awards, they all kind of fall into a similar vein a little bit, like they feel like they were produced with the award in mind.
Yeah, well, and it's also always the movies that just happen to be the current, like, hot
I'm just
conversation
saying,
topic.
Hot Fuzz is still owed a Best Picture award, as far as I'm concerned. This is the show, I guess.
Yeah, about smoking and movies.
I guess we're just going to ramble today because we're 20
No, it's fine,
minutes
because, I've got something, kind of. It's creepypastas, and they're very short. I actually put 2 because they're short, but they're still, even as 2, they're not long. So.
Well, that's a relief.
Yes. So I guess we can
notice every week that we fucking hate doing this.
Yeah. No, the funny thing is, I enjoy doing this. It's getting harder to make it work.
Yeah.
That was part of it, is I was kind of planning on getting to come down about a half hour to 40 minutes early to, like, kind of tighten some stuff up, and then instead I'm 10 minutes late.
Well, that's the thing about, like, actually doing the show is still fun, but it's the weirdest, like, when we're recording, I remember, like, oh, this is a good time, and that's why we do it. But, like, all the build-up the days before, when it's your topic week, and you're fucking tired, and, like, work
that's the thing,
stressing you out, it's like, man, fucking podcast, god damn it.
And it's to the point where it's not even like a build-up of that anymore, because I'm so fucking busy. I say it every week about work, and this has literally been the worst week of my life at work, and I've had this job for 20 years.
Yeah.
And again, I always try to put that into some context where there's people out there that, like, have it way worse on a day-to-day basis, but it's been bad. I mean, it's not just busy, but just bad stuff. Bad stuff.
Bad times. Yeah,
so,
like I'll edit the audio and like, you know, I'll be dreading that over the weekend. And it's like, it's literally listening to the show again while I play Call of Duty. Like, I don't take audio editing very seriously. You can tell.
Week over week, though, there's just more like random sighs and moans from me in the background. Like,
No, the worst thing ever in the world is when one of us has a random fucking sound that I can't get to go away. Because I got to pause my video game and actually do a little work. It's like, fuck this. Why is it clicking on his end? What is that click?
I'll be right back. I got to go turn my dryer on. There's nothing in it. I just want it tumbling while we're doing it.
Well,
so,
if you know,
cut on.
Our longtime listeners will be able to pick up the inevitable decline of the audio quality of this show. Because if I can't get it gone after like 3 noise removals, that's part of the show now. It's the third co-host.
And the sad thing is, I don't listen to a ton of podcasts, but when I like try to look for new ones, like if whatever I am listening to, I get caught up on, I'm like, I need a new one. And like, I could pick 10 random things that sound interesting, and they're all worse than our show. Like, either content or sound quality or both. And it's like, wait, like, are we actually kind of good at this? I don't know.
We're very good at this. Like, I maintain that no matter what. There's a lot of fucking garbage out there.
I feel like 80% of them now are like people recording just like on their phone with like an audio recording app on over like their cell phone hands.
Well, there's I don't even have a problem with that necessarily. Like, I'm from the early days of internet content where like a Let's Play, you would like set up a video camera facing your TV while you played a game. Like, I don't have a problem like navigating that, like, fucking you work with what you have type mentality. It's just there's no chemistry usually between the people talking, and they always need a break. I've talked about this before, but it's the fucking dumbest thing in the world to me to be we're going to go to a break. And it's like, even when they don't have an ad to play.
Right. That's the thing, is I feel like that's what people that listen to podcasts, and they feel like that makes it seem more official. It's like, no, this isn't, it's not a live stream. If it's a live stream, I get it, because maybe you have to go, take a dump. I don't know. But when it's pre-recorded, take all the fucking breaks you want. You just
edit it out. Yeah, like you don't even. We do it all the time where it's like, hang on a second, and I walk away, and like it's coming from me. It's called editing, and you don't have to be like, I'm going to take a break.
Bare minimum editing too. Yeah.
And the worst thing is when they're like, oh, it's for the listener. It's like they don't need permission from you to pause.
Yeah, I can pause at any time. Yeah. Look, buddy, even if your show's the best show I've listened to, I'm still barely paying attention to it.
I still gotta fucking poop when I gotta poop, and you're not coming with me on that.
That's an idea for a podcast. If we're sick of doing this, where the poop, what would you call it?
Things to think about while you're pooping,
Yeah, it'd be like, this is a podcast specifically for while you're pooping. If you're not pooping right now, do not listen.
Yeah. Introspective plops.
Plops with a twist. I don't know.
All right.
Anyway.
What do you got?
Creepypastas. These are cryptid creepypastas, and they're both kind of written like they're just, almost like they're a Wikipedia article. They're just talking about cryptids. They're both anonymously written, so I don't know.
Just like Wikipedia.
Yep. So, which, in my mind, proves that they're real.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, if they were fake, why would...
Yeah, they're not seeking attention here.
Yeah,
except to put it on the cryptid.
If it was just made up, why would the government step in and redact the name of the author? Which is what I assume happened here. Anyway. The first one is called the Blackbird of Chernobyl. Beginning in early April 1986, the people in and around the little-known Chernobyl nuclear power plant began to experience a series of strange events revolving around sightings of a mysterious creature described as a large, dark, and mutated man with gigantic wings and piercing red eyes. People affected by this phenomena experienced horrific nightmares, threatening phone calls, and first-hand encounters with the winged beast, which became known as the Blackbird of Chernobyl. Which is probably not true because they don't speak English in Russia, so it would have been like the Blagoski of Chernobyl or something.
Well, isn't Chernobyl Ukraine?
Yeah, well, but wasn't it? I thought that it was still part of the Soviet Union
it was
at the
Soviet
time.
Union then.
Yeah.
I don't know. I watched Chernobyl. They all spoke English. So,
and that wasn't because it was a show for an English audience. It was right.
Yeah, played mostly by British people speaking English with a Russian accent, just like the real Soviet Union.
Filmed in Mexico City for some reason.
Yeah. Filmed in Tijuana.
As they're evacuating, they don't even bother to use special effects. It's just randomly a Mexican city, like
Chernobyl, and it's like the fucking Venice Beach in California.
Some people just like buying hot dogs from a hot dog stand or something. Anyway.
It's like NBC's version of Chernobyl.
We've never actually been to Eastern Europe. We don't know what it looks like, so we're just going to show you Missouri.
With hot people and even hotter radiation burns.
Reports of these strange happenings continued to increase until the morning of April 26, 1986, when at 1:23 a.m. Reactor 4 of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant suffered a catastrophic steam explosion that resulted in a fire, which caused a series of additional explosions, followed by a nuclear meltdown, which pretty well sums that up. The power plant, located near, I can never say this, Pripyat?
That sounds right.
Ukraine, Soviet Union, spewed a plume of radioactive fallout, which drifted over parts of the Western Soviet Union, Eastern and Western Europe, Scandinavia, the UK, Ireland, and Eastern North America. Oh, fuck, that's why we're the way we are. I didn't realize it reached me over here. Yeah, well. Large areas of Ukraine, Belarus, and Russia were badly contaminated, resulting in the evacuation and resettlement of over 336,000 people. The Chernobyl disaster, as the incident was dubbed, is considered the worst accident ever in the history of nuclear power. So you folks didn't know you were getting an actual school lesson on one of the most well-known events of recent times that I think everybody's already heard about.
I mean, to be fair, that was kind of what I liked about that Chernobyl show. I didn't actually, I needed it fed to me in an entertaining way, but it's like, we all know kind of what happened with Chernobyl, but the details of it, like the details that go into a fuck up that huge, are pretty amazing. Like, yeah. It's a really fascinating story to dive into, and horrifying. So it's kind of funny to try to add a monster to what is already a very horrifying situation. That is still a horrifying situation.
The scariest part to me from I didn't watch the movie, but I've seen pretty in-depth, like a PBS Nova documentaries, that kind of stuff on it. It's how easy it happened. Like, there was like maybe, I can't remember, I want to say like a series of two or three like kind of fuck-ups that really caused the overall disaster and some design flaws. But they were all relatively minor. It was just like...
on their own, yeah.
Yeah. And...
which is like...
very quickly, it was like, yeah, whoops, yeah, I think we messed it. Oh, fuck.
So the best part of the HBO series is like, and it's dramatized, of course, but the kind of like the head, like, scientist who sort of has been leading the government to try to clean it up and contain the reactor and shit, is testifying about what happened, because throughout the whole thing, it's like there are people who are like, oh, it's impossible for a reactor to blow up, and how did this happen? And the people running it are like, we couldn't have done anything wrong and shit. And in his testimony, he's like, he's the first thing he says when it gets to that dramatic point is he's looking at the guy who caused it all. He was the scientist who was doing the test. His name was Dyatlov.
The same guy that like owns that pass where those students were ripped apart by the Yeti, because I think that's the Dyatlov pass.
I thought his name was Dyatlov. Maybe I'm confusing that. I don't know. We've done too many episodes of this show.
And I could be wrong too, but I think that is also at least it could be both.
Dyalov's pass is definitely a thing. I might be wrong. Yeah. But either way, it was this guy who's like, they were running a test to see how they could like power the reactor down, and the head guy is testifying. He's like, this dude fucking broke every rule we have about how to operate this reaction, but he did it because he thought there was a failsafe. Like, and because we like you mentioned, a design flaw. He was like, we told him there was, the way these were built tells you hit this button, you can shut the whole thing down. And then it came out that they had like granite tip rods that react harder when they're reinserted all at once. And so it's really interesting because there is a lot of human error, but it's also like, it's human error that was, it wouldn't have been fatal if it wasn't built on a lie originally.
Right. And also the scary thing about it is how is an error, like you said, where you assume that you have some wiggle room, but it was very, very quick to reach the point of, nope, you're fucked and there's literally nothing you can do.
Yeah, it's like in the design you took a shortcut, and shortcuts and deception will never hold up against human nature to fuck up. Like you can't assume that everything will be followed the way you want it to. Like, you have to plan for the worst case scenario, and that's kind of what the moral of Chernobyl really is just like, none of that matters because you started from a bad premise that it would never go that far anyway, so we don't need to worry about it.
Kind of like the Titanic.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things in our history that have been like that.
That's why we talk about these things, because they're just monumental fuck-ups that killed a lot of people.
Although the more we talk about this, the more suspicious it is that scientist during court didn't bring up all these sightings that went on beforehand. So that also screams cover up.
Well, he was the monster. And then at the end of his testimony, he let out a scream and then ran out of the courtroom and flew away.
Wings unfurled from underneath his white lab coat, which I assume he was wearing because he's a scientist. And very much.
Did you know about the elephant's foot underneath it?
No.
So there's just like, under the reactor, there's this giant fucking pool of reactor core and metal and shit that melted through the bottom. And it all pulled together in this giant blob they call the elephant's foot. And that room that it's in it's gone down over the years, but I think it's still like the single most radioactive place in the fucking world. Like, if you're in there for like a minute, I think you're like, it's like a fatal dose.
Yeah. Which tells me if you're in there for 30 seconds, it's still not going to be like you're fine.
Yeah, like, that's just like, cancer in, 10 years.
Skin burns all over your, body. Following the meltdown and subsequent explosions and fires, Soviet helicopters were dispatched to the scene equipped with special firefighting gear. These helicopters circled the plant, dropping clay, sand, lead, and other extinguishing chemicals on the burning facility. Most of the fire was put out by 5 a.m., with the fire burning in Reactor 4 continuing to blaze for several hours after. The firefighters who responded were unaware of the nature of the fire, assuming that it was simply an electrical fire, and received massive overdoses of radiation, leading to many other deaths, including Lieutenant Vladimir Pravik, who died on May 9th, 1986. I like that that's worded as massive overdoses of radiation, as if there's a such thing as massive regular doses.
I was doing bumps of radiation the other night in the club.
Generally, the combination of the word massive and radiation, just the overdoses is implied at that point. Although now I'm curious what the most massive blast of radiation you can receive that doesn't do anything. Like, just right at that threshold.
It doesn't take much radiation to kind of.
Now, and that's the bitch with the radiation, is that there isn't like a set amount of radiation that's safe, because it's not like a specific point that you reach that now it's dangerous, now it's not. Like, two people can be exposed to the exact same amount of radiation, and one of them gets like cancer, and the other one just is like nauseous for an hour. Like, it's such a random, weird fucking thing, which is why I've been developing it to harness.
I need something that can dry my pants even faster. I've been experimenting with radiation.
Right. Workers who survived the initial blast and fire, but would later die of radiation poisoning, claim to have witnessed what has been described as a large black bird-like creature with a 20-foot wingspan, gliding through the swirling plumes of irradiated smoke pouring from the reactor. So it's just like, fuck me up.
It's fucking Batman not understanding. He can't help this. I don't care what grapple hook you have, bro. This is fucking radiation. Get out of here.
No further sightings of the Blackbird of Chernobyl were reported after the disaster, leaving researchers to speculate just what haunted the workers of the plant during the days leading up to the disaster.
It's probably a bat.
Yeah.
Did you see a photo of, like, how big some fucking bats can get? They're like fucking people-sized.
Yeah, I've not seen people-sized bats. That would be terrifying. I've seen, like, dog-sized bats. Those are pretty up there. And bats are those weird creatures where they're like, and I'm one of those people I can fall into where you're like, oh, that's kind of cute. And it's also not. It's like the opposite. Like,
bats are the type of thing that is like, they're very neat until they get closer and closer, and
exactly. You're like, oh, that's adorable. It's coming at me. Kill it.
There's a lot of there's a lot of teeth on that little fucking thing.
Screechy looking faces and
But yeah, I don't know why you would assume it's some majestic or fucking mysterious creature. It's probably a bat, and it got fucking tumors, and now it's dead.
Imagine that, though, if there was a cryptid. Because, the thing everybody said, the animals there, like, got exposed, and now there's, like, giant 5-headed deer and, that kind of stuff. What if you were the one cryptid that got exposed, and it turned you into a regular bat, and now nobody cared about you? Like, instead of getting even bigger and crazy, you just shrank down to normal, and it's like, God, now I don't have anything. I'm nothing. And the most commonly accepted theory suggests that the Blackbird of Chernobyl may have been the same creature spotted in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, leading up to the collapse of the Silver Bridge on December 15th, 1968. So he's moving up. He's like, I got a bridge. Now I need a nuclear reactor. Investigators have suggested that the appearance of this creature is an omen of disaster to come in the area in which it shows itself. The physical description of both the Blackbird of Chernobyl and the Mothman in West Virginia are very similar, and the reports of nightmares and threatening phone calls leading up to the disaster are shared in both cases. Which tells me the creature not only can, like, foretell doom and haunt people, but it can use a fucking telephone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's the scariest of all. Just leave me alone, creature.
Just text me, please.
Right, like a normal person. A second, less accepted theory suggests that the Blackbird of Chernobyl was nothing more than the identification of the black stork, an endangered species endemic to southern Eurasia. The black stork stands nearly 3 feet tall and has a wingspan of nearly 6 feet. This theory, however, fails to take into account the menacing phone calls and disturbing nightmares. I don't know. I feel every phone call I get's menacing, and all my dreams are disturbing nightmares. Like, I think that's just called being an adult. News. Right. Even if it's, like the other day, my parents are down in Florida right now, and the other day my mom called, and I'm just not a phone person. She called, and it's like, hey, what's up? What do you need? And she's like, I'm just calling to talk. It's like, oh. That's the scariest thing you can say. Like, I don't want to fucking talk. And I don't dislike my parents. It's just, I'm like, I don't have that desire to sit and talk to people on the phone. So yeah, every call that comes in, every single one, I consider it menacing on one level or another. Both the Blackbird of Chernobyl and Mothman have not been sighted since their respective disasters. Although is that true? I thought people still report seeing Mothman down there.
Mothman sounds common. I've never actually read up on it because it sounds stupid to me. As much as we talk about like monsters and mythological creatures and stuff on this show, the Mothman was always the one that I was like, that's dumb. That's a dumb idea for a monster.
You're hurting my feelings. That's my local monster. It's like an hour and a half from me here.
I'm not saying Washington has better.
No, I know. It's one of those, I think I know more about it than a lot of cryptids, but only because I live relatively close. I think it's even more than an hour and a half, but I mean, it's the Ohio-West Virginia border, and I'm in central Ohio, so.
Yeah.
I think I've been across the new bridge that replaces Silver Bridge, but anyway, I'm pretty sure that people still report seeing the Mothman from time to time, though.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's a black stork as well,
or maybe you're the Mothman.
Basically, it says they haven't been sighted, leaving many questions unanswered. All we can do is wait for the beast to show itself and give us a chance to figure out what it may be. Unfortunately, it appears that maybe this creature will never show up again or something. I'm not reading it word for word at this point because it's the end.
How convenient.
I love that it's like, unfortunately, this creature that keeps showing up and then dozens or hundreds of people die might not ever come again.
Up. Yeah. Wow, we'll never have a fucking tragedy again. That's awesome.
And I say it sounds pretty fortuitous to me, but the reality is it keeps showing up in these like third world countries, and the world's just like, like, anyway, I've got a second one, but now we've rambled enough. I can maybe save the second one for.
Yeah, we're at 45 minutes. That's fine with me.
Yeah. So, and I don't know. I probably should have looked, but like I said, my preparation time was severely cut short. I kind of feel like this is one of those because it's from the Creepypasta site we use, but there's a lot on there that are like actual like, you know, like Bigfoot is on there, or can be on there. So I think this is one that's kind of supposedly you know, from outside of Creepypasta. I don't think it was completely made up. In fact, I could probably search.
Yeah, but I mean, Creepypasta, now it's kind of just like a straight up place where people, you know, write short fiction stories, but the origin of it was like trying
these
to
stories.
It was trying to like tell try to add plausibility to what you were doing. So you would link a lot of like bullshit scans of newspapers, and you know there would be, you know, Wikipedia entries and stuff fucked around with. It was
and I can
to make that effect.
Yeah. And I can say from a very quick Google that I probably should have done beforehand that it is a real, like, urban legend, you know, supposed cryptid out there. It's not made up for the Creepypasta site.
It's made up for life.
There are a lot of stories throughout history about disasters that I remember seeing. Did I see it or maybe listen to? Something about an effect that happened. There was a school in either Ireland or Scotland, somewhere over there. And this would have been a long time ago, but I think within like 100 or 150 years. Anyway, it was at the base of a mountain that was strip mining was going on. And one day the fucking mountain gave way from all the exploitation of it and caused this massive landslide of like sludge, and I think it had to do with like the waste from the mining incident. But anyway, gave way and it literally obliterated the school, killed like every child that was in the school, which was a couple, I think 100 children. It killed some other people too, but primarily it hit the fucking school during a school day. So like the worst possible disaster you could manufacture, and it's something that actually happened. But there was documented stories of a person even beforehand, of some woman that was having these like kind of premonitions, and then she had them for another event, and then other people were. And the whole point of this thing I was watching was like, I think it was the British government actually got so like interested in it that they like put this team together. And I think it's basically what like The Men Who Stare at Goats was like based on, where they were like literally like they were actually like, we need to look into this. Is there some kind of supernatural thing where people get these premonitions before these terrible events?
You can't let the Russians get these premonitions.
Right. And of course nothing was ever conclusively proven, and it's so hard because I know people personally that every day says something bad's going to happen. So then if they say that and something does finally happen, does that make them psychic, or does it mean, some people just suffer from anxiety and
I mean, that's kind of like all those like doomsday end of the world conspiracy theories and stuff, and how it's like they always trace it back to like these prophets who were like, they were like owing fucking $1 million on like when the world was gonna end. But right. They'll point out like one thing that kind of sounds similar to one thing they got right. It's like, if you keep just throwing shit out there, you're gonna end up getting a couple predictions right. It's why I picked the Eagles to win the Super Bowl every year. It took 52 tries, but it happened once.
It happened, right. And that's the thing, and from what I remember, I think part of it was these people, because it was more than just this one woman. It happened with a handful of people, but in general, it's just these vague feelings of impending doom, and it's like, fuck, I have those every other day.
Right.
So, and it's really hard.
Especially, like, I have impending doom anytime I see a school.
Right. So anyway, my point is that with the Silver Bridge in Chernobyl, I mean, especially something like,
you should have felt bad about Chernobyl before it happened.
Yeah.
Like, let's be honest.
But Chernobyl was also kind of in, Eastern Soviet Union, other than the city itself, relatively, isolated, and so it's not unusual for people to have sightings of things that they're, you see things in the woods that are fucking scary, especially if you're whatever. So
it's weird though how like when you see photos of like Chernobyl now and like the abandoned like Ferris wheel and shit, it's almost like that town was specifically only built to become a horror setting later.
That's the thing is, like, I tend to, even though I've seen that stuff, like, even now when I picture Chernobyl, I tend to just picture, like, an industrial area, the plant and some, like, warehouse buildings and stuff, and it wasn't. It was a full-blown fucking town with stuff that was supposed to, serve the employees of the reactor and surrounding, needs. And you're right, like, just this abandoned nuclear like plant by itself melted down in the middle of the woods is like, yeah, that's creepy, sure. It's 1,000 times creepier when there's a fucking Ferris wheel sitting there.
Yeah, there's like a Ferris wheel.
I can't explain
you
why.
Go into like buildings, like there's just like fucking shit left everywhere. Like,
well, the creepiest thing in the planet's an abandoned school, and I remember seeing video taken of them walking through the school.
Yeah.
No, I take that back. I think a hospital edges a school out, but just barely. They're both buildings that are... I used to have that. I've talked about the job, but I had a job basically guarding an abandoned state property that had both an infirmary and a dormitory, and they were not my favorite places at night to be by myself.
Yeah.
And I don't even believe in this shit, but it's still, they're creepy.
Yeah, it's like, I don't believe in that shit, but they didn't ask me to believe in it. The fucking demons are coming anyway. It's...
Well, and at the very least, if you want to be 100% like scientific and pragmatic about it, it's like, yeah, you walk into those, like I say, even the infirmary, it wasn't like a big hospital. It wasn't like an insane asylum or anything. But it was enough that, they still had the trays where you would have like your doctor implements on and that kind of stuff. And then the tables, like the exam tables and stuff. And it's just, a human aspect of, it's like basic empathy. Like people were here when they weren't feeling good and maybe dying, maybe not, but just sick. It wasn't a happy place. So basic human empathy already puts your mind in this like set of like, you're not in there like, this is a fun, happy zone. It's a fucking hospital. An active hospital is not a happy place to be generally. So here, that's my 2 cents trying to explain away the supernatural because I'm a curmudgeon.
Yeah.
But anyway, Blackbird of Chernobyl is what I've got.
Yeah.
And tomorrow we'll wake up to the news that they've discovered a giant birdman in Chernobyl.
Blackbird of Chernobyl. When you say Blackbird of Chernobyl is what I got. It sounds like your doctor diagnosed you with an STD. Fucking dick is coughing up Blackbird.
Yeah. Blackbird of Chernobyl's what the Paul McCartney would have wrote if the Beatles had stayed together with Yoko behind the scenes too.
Yeah,
instead of just the Blackbird
he
song.
never wrote another song again. No, he took that breakup hard. We know that about Paul McCartney. Anyway, that's the show this week. I'm gonna stop recording right now. Just you wait.
Me too.
It's over. I'm leaving now. It's done. Fuck off.